while back, I did a series of videos covering the careers of various Venator and Imperial-class Star Destroyers, but there's one key ship in the Imperial Navy that I don't think I ever actually did a comprehensive dive into its history, so today let's talk about the career of the Executor, the flagship of Death Squadron. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So the Executor, which we first saw on screen in The Empire Strikes Back, is the massive Executor-Class Dreadnought that served as the flagship of Death Squadron and the personal flagship of Darth Vader through a majority of the Galactic Civil War. It saw action from the Battle of Hoth to the Battle of Endor, and a little bit before then. And today I want to discuss its career and sort of some of the impacts of its destruction at the Battle of Endor. So let's just jump right in with its construction. It was designed and built by Kuat Drive Yards, like many of the other Executor-class Star Destroyers. Now, interestingly, even though the class bears the name of the Executor, it wasn't the first one finished. The first one finished was the Annihilator, with the Executor being the second ship in the class to be completed. Interestingly, there actually was some drama surrounding the Executor's construction. During her construction, a rogue Imperial scientist, Dr. Silo, attempted to seize control of the vessel to use it in a planned coup against the Emperor. A plan that was ultimately foiled by Darth Vader, who uncovered the plot and prevented this coup from taking place. As a reward for stopping an attempted coup, Darth Vader was given command of the Executor, and it was made his personal flagship, much to the dismay of General Tag, who was supposed to take command of the vessel. As a result, Grand General Cassio Tag protested and was killed by Vader, and the ship firmly fell under Vader's control, and he handed the day-to-day operations over to Admiral Kendall Ozzel, who would be the commander of the vessel up until the Battle of Hoth. The first major combat deployment for the Executor was at the Battle of Mako Ta, where the Imperial forces, following the Battle of Yavin, were given information that Rebel forces had fled there, and the Imperial forces, having been prioritizing the capture of Rebel leadership and a counterstrike against the Rebel Alliance, seized on this opportunity and sent a massive fleet, which would be Death Squadron, to Mako Ta to attempt to capture Rebel leadership and destroy the Rebel fleet that had assembled there. This fleet was led by the brand new Executor-class Dreadnought, the Executor. Ultimately, Imperial forces were victorious at the Battle of Mako Ta, having dealt a serious blow to the Rebel naval forces, but not successful in capturing Rebel leadership, most of whom managed to escape. As a result, Death Squadron, led by the Executor, began pursuing the Rebel Alliance in an effort to find their new base of operations, which ended up being on Hoth. Now, we actually see that during The Empire Strikes Back. The Executor served as the flagship of the fleet that blockaded Hoth. Now, the fleet that blockaded Hoth did jump out of hyperspace a little too close to Hoth and was identified by the Rebel forces on the ground, and as a result, Admiral Ozzel was removed from command and killed by Darth Vader, and his successor would ultimately be Admiral Piet, who had been serving as the captain of the Executor prior to the death of Admiral Ozzel. Under the command of now Admiral Piet, the Executor served as Vader's personal flagship when it came to the pursuit of Rebel forces following the Battle of Hoth, both the pursuit through the asteroid field, and ultimately the Executor would end up over Bespin during the sort of showdown at Cloud City. Following the Battle of Hoth, the next major appearance of the Executor was at the Battle of Endor, where it served as the flagship of the fleet that was sort of the trap made for the Rebel Alliance. The Rebel forces would come thinking they had found the Death Star basically undefended, but would be surprised when a massive Imperial fleet appeared behind them and basically pinned them against the battle station. That fleet was led by the Executor, which was still under the command of Admiral Piet. During that engagement, the Executor was ultimately destroyed, having its shields knocked out by Rebel starfighters, and then its bridge taken out by a wayward X-Wing. Lacking an auxiliary bridge that could take command in time, the vessel was left careening into the Death Star's gravity well. Its destruction on the surface of the Death Star ultimately spelled the end of the Imperial chances of winning the Battle of Endor. Ultimately, the destruction of the Executor was so impactful because of the elements that led to its destruction, its very exposed bridge, its easily neutralized shields, that successor vessels of the First Order Navy would be designed to specifically negate some of these design flaws, moving their bridges closer to the ship's superstructure and hiding shield generators in easier to conceal locations around the ship, making it more difficult for Resistance and New Republic starfighters to actually knock out the shields for Resurgent-class battlecruisers. Furthermore, the destruction of the Executor spelled the end of the Imperial force at the Battle of Endor, and would ultimately lead to the Imperial defeat at Endor, which would snowball into the end of the Galactic Empire. Not that the Executor's survival could have really changed that. All in all, the Executor did, however, have a lot in common with the smaller ships of the Imperial Navy, things like the Imperial-class Star Destroyer I have behind me. One of the things that they shared in common was the layout of the bridge, and if you'd like to learn about the way the bridge was laid out, both on the Executor and on other Imperial Navy vessels like the Imperial-class Star Destroyer, I'll leave a link up here to my video breaking down the sort of layout of the bridge of a Star Destroyer, and what all the stations do, and how it's actually utilized. And I'd like you to let me know down in the comments what you think was a more valuable asset to the Galactic Empire, the Death Stars or the Executor-class Super Star Destroyers. Do you think the Executor was a better investment than the planet-killing superweapons, or do you think it makes sense to divert funds to building the Death Stars as opposed to building, let's say, 5 or 6 more Executor-class Super Star Destroyers? And if you have anything else you'd like to see me cover in Star Wars or anywhere else in science fiction, you can let me know down below in the comments. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.